back to another episode of Pay It Forward. Today we're going to be talking about your secondary supplemental applications and your program materials. My name is Sameh Solomon. I'm a third-year dental student at ATSU-ASDOH in Arizona. This is my Pay It Forward YouTube series. Please subscribe and like this video.
Hey, hello, my name is Fernanda. I'm from UCLA at third year.
I'm Sylvia. I'm a D3 at ATSU-ASDOH like Sameh. And here's also my information. If you need any help, just reach out.
And as before, this is our personal experiences. You can use it as a guide, but it's not guaranteed that you'll get into dental school. We are trying to help you get in. So this was the third video that I made in the series with Sylvia. So it's good to have you back, Sylvia. So make sure that you guys check this video out because it's kind of a prerequisite to this video for the secondaries and it will help you a lot. Please watch this video. I'm going to have a link to it up here. This video is another prerequisite for this video. We're going to be talking about resources when applying to dental school. Please watch this video. I'm going to have a link to it up here. This video is also another prerequisite for the secondary applications because it talks about choosing the right dental schools. And when you do that, it will save you a lot of time, energy, money, and effort when you are doing your secondary application. So please watch this video. I'm going to have a link to it up here.
Okay, so for the three components of your application, so as an applicant, this is really good to submit your apps and mail in your official transcripts to the schools, which by the way, we talked all about this in our original video that me and Sameh did. And then, so the ADEA-ATSAS is your primary application. So that's the one that you send to all the schools and it's the same information goes to all of them. But in this video, we are gonna focus on the secondary, which is the supplemental materials. And this is where you'll just get ready for hopefully interviews after you submit this part. So good luck. Remember the FAP program, which we talked about also in our prior video. So again, it opened May 12th. So hopefully you guys have already applied for it. And then June 16, that's where the initial decisions come out. So if you contact the schools that you're really interested in and have gotten your secondaries, they will most likely try to make the applications free. So I would definitely contact these schools and tell them that you got the FAP. And you never know, you might also get your secondaries to be free. Use your funds before February 3rd, and that's when you can get all the funds for all the applications. So you can get the $483 in fee waivers. So don't forget to go on the ADEA-ATSAS Fee Assistant Program and Google that so you can get all this information and have it ready.
So in the previous video, my guest, Farine, talked about how she got accepted to the FAP program. She had a tip from another dental student that she should consider contacting the schools that she applied to for their secondaries because some schools waive it. And she was able to do that, and I believe she got the fees for her secondaries waived for 19 schools. So she ended up saving a lot of money, and I didn't know that. If I knew that, I would have applied for the FAP. But the more you know, and that's why I'm doing these videos, is because I'm also learning.
In last videos, you saw the resources to apply into dental school. So you had the ADEA official guide, the ADEA Dental School Explorer, the ASDOH Getting into Dental School, the grad school grades, and last but not least, the school's website. And so this is a new one, and it's very important because it has the most up-to-date information. And so if you have any questions or anything don't always just rely on the online. You can always call them or email them. They're always happy to answer questions.
Like I said in the last videos, I made a partnership with Grad School Grades for 30% off. So you need to use the promo code FORWARD and you'll be able to save 30% off of $50. And that will give you 12 months access, and I'll go into detail about how that will benefit you. The reason why Fernanda said to contact the schools via email or calling them is because you're trying to be in the system. You're trying to show interest in that program, and you just basically want to put your name out there. This is an example of the ADEA official guide to dental schools and the Dental School Explorer. So here I use my school, ATSU-ASDOH in Arizona, as an example. Here it shows the mission statement, highlights about the curriculum. So these two resources are basically the same thing. They give you the same amount of information. It's just this is hard copy. This is digital. You can control find, you can use filters, you can actually compare schools, you can add notes, the mission statement, and the vision for that program. This is going to be our main focus for today in the secondary application, because that is the main question that you are trying to cater your answers to, is that school's mission and the vision. So here the website is ATSU.edu for my school and Sylvia's school. Their phone number, their email, and they have this infographic that basically tells you about 25% of our class graduates with a dual degree. This is the first dental school in Arizona. Our first accreditation was in 2007, and it'll tell you our GPA, our DT scores, the student-faculty ratio, the cost, any specialty that we have, whether it's AGD residents or ortho specialty. That's what I Googled, and I was able to find this website that gave me this information. So gradschoolgrades.com, this is a brand new service. They give you up-to-date information about each dental school in the country. Here using ASDOH in Arizona. So this kind of shows you a bar graph that has clinical experience, research, our social life, and specialization. So they have here a lot of the stats. It'll tell you how many are in-state students, out-of-state, the tuition, GPA, D4, anatomy, physiology, all the credits are required, and they have a wealth of knowledge. And they also have reviews that is provided by current dental students, and these reviews are unfiltered. So meaning that they are not biased, they're not trying to sell you the school because they are a third party. So this is information that you're not gonna find on the school's website. This is basically a Google review or a Yelp review for that program. So some of the questions that they have answered is, what are the best things about attending ASDOH? What are the worst things about attending ASDOH? What do students need to know / what do you wish you knew before attending ASDOH? So these are very solid questions that I wish I knew about my school before coming here. And these are questions that are answered in length. This is a quote from one of the reviews. It basically says the modular curriculum means we have only one class for a week or two and are tested every other day on the material covered. So that kind of gives you an insight on what our didactic life is like at ASDOH. So again, for 30% off, use the promo code FORWARD and it will be applied to your shopping cart. Now we're going to do a walkthrough for your application. So you're gonna click my application, program materials, and the program materials here, the only school that I have is AT still, and I'll show you the process of adding more schools. So the program material basically reviews each dental school's requirements and supplemental information, and you designate the dental schools you want to receive your AADSAS application, and you must add at least one program to be able to submit your application. But you can always add more programs. And towards the end of the presentation, I'll talk about why this is very important if you are financially struggling, because that was my case and I had to find out a strategy on how to approach this application cycle, considering the fact that I applied twice to 40 schools total. So before starting your application, be sure to read the application instructions at this website. So under the tab Add Program, you're gonna click here, Add Program, and you're gonna click Filters. So once you click Filters, this window is gonna be prompted. So I'm from California, so I wanted to be in California if possible, or in a neighboring state. So I ended up selecting Arizona and California. Again, under Add Programs, you go under Selected Programs now. And for me, I accidentally added Missouri. So for this, I'm going to exit out because I don't want to travel across the country. Here it tells you delete program. Are you sure you want to delete the program you selected? This will delete this program from your application. Basically, this is saying that if you click delete, any answers that you have for the program material questions, they're going to be gone. So I really advise you to create a Word document and have all this information relating to the application, whether it's primary, secondary, or all that, and have that as a backup because you never know if the system might go down or not. So just to be on the safer side, I would have a backup of all this information. So the difference between a couple slides ago and this slide is now I have multiple programs added. And you guys can see now I have 1 out of 8 programs completed. So meaning the only one that's completed, has a check mark right here, is the Western U application, because they don't have any questions. It's literally just shows you the prerequisites and it directs you to their secondary portal where you answer all their secondary questions on an external website.
My 2 tips. So there is multiple formats of the secondary application. So after you submit your primary, what you need to do right away is you need to make sure what kind of format you have for your schools. And so the options are, the most common one is that the schools are going to have extra questions. And so what you're going to happen is either they're going to send you an email to tell you how to access the secondary application. If you don't have the primary sent first, they might not send you a secondary. And the reason for that is because some schools don't send it to everybody, they send it to a certain amount of people. So for that reason, there's only a specific way to access it. And so once you're in there, you can fill it out and you're going to see an example of that. And then they're going to ask you to pay an application fee. The other options is that you are expected to go to their websites and find the secondary application and pay the fee. And so some schools might not have extra questions either because they already have the questions in the primary. Make sure that you go to the website to know what kind of format they have. And the nice thing is that you will be able to know what you need to do. And also once you submit that, what is the next step? When you will hear back, when you will hear about interviews and that kind of stuff. Then there are 2 questions that usually everybody asks, which is why you want to go to a specific school, and if you want to elaborate anything that was in your application. Of course, there's other questions, but these are the 2 of the common ones, so I wanted to cover them. So when it comes to answering why you want to go to a specific school, do your research. So what they're trying to see is if you actually know why you're going there. They don't want you to just apply to like all the schools and you're like, okay, let's see who accepts me. Remember, this is a 2-way street. Yes, you want them to choose you, but they also want you to choose them. You want to choose the school that you're going to thrive, that you're going to get the most out of it, and that fits your vision. And so for that reason, like Sameh explained, he said that you need to know the vision and the goals. And for that, you kind of use that to target your answer. So for that reason, you need to not be vague. Some ways to kind of get this idea, because sometimes they ask the book and maybe the resources that we just discussed are not as thorough. You can use the Student Doctor Network as a last resource, but I would try to maybe stay away from it. The reason is because some people are very negative about it and they might have issues and they try to target it out of the school, and that might be not correct. So I will try to focus on the positive comments. Like I said, you can use the ASDOH resources in, and then you can take it one step further from there. Once you get all your research, you try to connect it either to how that school is going to help you to become the dentist that you're envisioning. If you're having trouble with that, you can explain how you can succeed at this school. So for example, in the case of ATSU, they have the modular system. If you are really good at focusing on one class at a time, you can say, I want to go to ATSU because I like to do one class at a time and then get over with and then go to the next class. And so that's one way you can explain that you're good for that school. And that's the reason you want to go to ATSU. And so that way you kind of like, you target it that way. You just don't go big like, oh, I want to get exposed to multiple people. You're going to get that from all the schools. So be specific. And then you kind of did a little bit of work for the interview process, interview prep, because they're going to ask you why you want to go to a specific school. So make sure that you memorize this question. Now, the second question that I was talking about, which is like, if you have any additional questions, make sure that you do not repeat anything in the primary. This is more like if you have any special circumstances that you couldn't explain into the primary, this is where you explain it.
So me personally, I am anti-Student Doctor Network because I think they have a lot of negative people on there and they try to weed out people by lying, by making up stories for specific schools. And the Student Doctor Network, the information on there is not monitored or verified by anyone. It's kind of like Reddit. You can't really believe anything on Reddit. Another thing is, like Fernanda said, she made a good point about the interview prep. We're gonna have another video. I'm gonna have the link to it up here. This will make your interview preparation way easier because let's say you get invited to an interview and the soonest date that the school gives you is in 3 days, like a very quick out of the blue interview. Are you going to be ready? Are you going to be anxious in these 3 days? But if you do your homework ahead of time, then you literally just, I got this because I know everything that there is to know about that specific program. So go the extra mile for your secondaries, and that will pay off greatly.
And so here is what the schools that I apply. So as you can see, there's a lot of variety. So for UCLA, most of the questions are at the primary. So what they do is they email you the secondary fee. So they don't have any more questions. You just have to pay the application fee in order for them to look at your application. Then ATSU University, around like maybe 2 to 3 weeks after submitting the application, you might get a secondary application. This is the one that it was the longest for me. And so they ask about like the personal statement, the experiences. And so that's when you have to think about like the goals of the school. So in this video at the end, we're going to go over all the entire primary and then secondary part of the ATSU University. So you will see how this works. And I think this is one of the most complex secondary applications that I saw. So like once you target ATSU, you should be fine for the other ones, to be honest. Then for Western U, you go to the website on your own. You have to pay secondary application fee. Sometimes they might email you to say like you haven't done it, but I wouldn't do that because that's gonna delay for them to see your primary. So I will go there right away. Same for USC. You go there, you pay your secondary application fee. There's no questions. Then for UPenn, you go to the website to same secondary fee. They have some questions. Oregon is kind of similar to USC, but they actually email you and they tell you, hey, can you please go to your website if you haven't done it yet. Midwestern, I will say like for me, like the first one that was the longest, it was ATSU, then it was Midwestern, and maybe it was Western U, but yeah. And then Columbia, you just go to the website and pay the secondary application fee. They don't have any questions at all. And then Colorado is the same way. There's some schools that they don't care. They just want to be paid and they will look at your application. Other schools, unless they're considering you or they think like your stats are within, then they will tell you, okay, go ahead and pay. So it depends. So I will try to just go ahead and go to all the websites, make sure that, okay, this school wants me to pay it or this school wants me to wait for them to tell me to pay it. Better safe than sorry.
All right, so going off of Fernanda's 2 tips, so these are mine. So personally, I saw the secondaries as like a congratulations point, like you've made it this far, you already submitted your primaries, this is the secondaries. And again, like what Fernanda said, some of them, like you just get them automatically. For other schools, this is where they eliminate like half their applicants. For example, ASDOH, like the year that me and Sameh applied, there was 2,433 applicants. And the secondary was only sent to 1,280 students. They eliminated half of the applicants by just this step. So I would take this very seriously. The secondary is very serious for the schools just because it's very specific. So, and I wouldn't wait too long. Once you submitted the primaries for the schools that don't have any questions, and if you do have the funds, I would just go straight into it and just pay the secondary just so you know that you're done with it. And then for the schools where you're waiting to see if you get a secondary like ATSU, I would say I did most of mine within 1 week. I would say 1 to 2 weeks max. Don't wait like months. So if they sent you an app, I would expect you to hopefully get it within a week or 2 back to them. And you can always ask any of us in any of these video series, because again, we've all been through this process. We know usually what questions each school has to offer. So like, for example, again, like Loma Linda was very focused on like religion. So like have something ready about that. While like UCSF was very research based, so I would have something ready about research if you've done research. And again, ASDOH was very community service based, so have like your favorite community service experience, or if you did GCAS or anything like that, that would be very good to talk about. And then some schools repeat questions from the primaries, like your personal statement, the disadvantage statement, but make it more personal to the school. So this is where we talk about like, if you looked at those booklets that Sameh mentioned in the beginning of the video, where they mentioned like the mission statement and the vision of the school, or you can literally Google ASDOH mission statement and they will just pop up on Google. So I would make it very tailored to that, because that just shows that like you're taking the extra mile and being exactly like the student that the school wants like to have, basically. Yeah, so just know exactly what your school is very focused on. Like again, is it public health? Is it community service? And have everything ready for the secondaries. And like don't waste money, because honestly, like if you apply to a school and then you realize, oh my gosh, it's like religious based and like I'm not religious, like, you know, your secondary is kind of like thrown away, and like your primary app, you just wasted $100 and plus just applying, and it's not a good fit. And again, secondaries can range from like $65 to $250. So that's like another hefty bill that you don't want to be adding to a school that does not fit with what you are.
So, like Sylvia said, make sure that you follow myself, Dental Life, 24 Crown, Smile with Netta, and Meret Does Dentistry. All of us have our dental blogs on Instagram. Feel free to shoot us a message, and we'll be more than happy to help you, because this is why our team is creating this video series, is to help you all out. So now we're going to talk about my 2 tips. So if you had any pre-dental involvement experiences with a specific school, like let's say pre-dental days, preview days, mentee-mentor mixers, or anything like that, mention it for that specific program and include specific names. So I'll tell you this from experience. I was the ASDOH-ASDA pre-dental director for my school this past year, and I hosted a lot of mixers for the pre-dents. And I had people come from all over the country, from Arizona, from California, and whatnot. And I also did the pre-dental day. So the interesting thing about pre-dental days, it's always in February, and it's always going to be a Saturday, because that Friday of that weekend, we host GCAS, which is Give Kids a Smile, which is basically a statewide free dental care to children. And we get busloads of students every single year. And the school basically sets it up where they try to encourage and promote it for pre-dental students to come and help. They shadow, they assist, they make connections, they get to meet the students, and they see the entire culture about our school. They also recommend them to stay in Arizona for that weekend, because they strategically have the following day, that Saturday, be the pre-dental day. So that basically sets you up for success. And you can talk about it. Like if you came from California, I drove 6 hours to come to Arizona for Give Kids a Smile and for the pre-dental day. And I took that day off of work. So that way you can talk about all that in your secondary, and that shows dedication and determination that you actually traveled to come and give free care to the community. So that's amazing if you're able to include that. And I had pre-dental students that came last year to the pre-dental day, and the pre-dental day at ASDOH, it basically has a mock interview. So they give you a rundown for the application, a rundown for the secondary. If you're a reapplicant, they have a little workshop if you're reapplying. And they also talk about like financials. They talk about the school culture. They give you a tour of Sim Clinic, and they actually give you the handpiece, and they let you actually like drill with the handpiece. So the entire thing it's very eye-opening. If you're considering ASDOH or you're serious about it, this will actually set you apart. And I have so many classmates now and incoming dental students that participated last year when I hosted the pre-dental day, and now they're accepted to ASDOH because they mentioned they were interviewed by that specific professor or that specific dean, and they mentioned names, and it all paid off. Most of these events are through the ASDA, the American Student Dental Association. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you get the ASDA Getting a Dental School book, so that $71 pays for any ASDA chapter for any dental school across the nation. So let's say you want to go to Midwestern, that's like one of your focus schools, that you pay the $71 for that book, and you get a membership for any of their events and so forth. So they basically don't give you the membership, they end up waiving the membership. That's what they do. And you get the benefit of looking at all the stats from that book. So school websites tend to be biased to sell you on attending there. So use other resources like talking directly to current dental students from that school if possible, and use social media like Sylvia said, and follow dental students and dental programs to kind of like get an insight of what that school's culture is like by seeing how the dental students there interact with one another, their daily lives, what kind of stories they share with the public. Some schools have a YouTube channel that has videos made by the admissions office for that specific program, or by the student life office. And this basically gives you an insight of what that school's culture is like. So I know if you look up ATSU-ASDOH, you're going to see a very popular video about our inaugural dean, Dean Dillenberg, where he talks about our school's mission and why he was so adamant about starting the school back in 2003. So that was the video that I literally watched like 5 times before my interview. But with that being said, I wouldn't watch it and memorize it and basically spit back everything that you heard in that video. It will sound super rehearsed and it's like not your own words. So just take keywords that whoever is talking in that video mentions and refers to, and then apply to secondary and to your actual interview preparation. So some dental students have YouTube channels to help prospective students get good insight on what their schools offers, or for general educational content, just like our Pay It Forward series on YouTube, and videos like A Day in the Life of a D2 basically gives you a vlog of what their day is like. So all these videos, I would honestly, I was on YouTube 24/7 trying to narrow down the programs that I'm applying to, so that way I don't waste money. Again, I keep mentioning grad school grades. It's a great resource because it has every school, and you can even compare them side by side. If you took a gap year, there will be questions regarding that. So for me, I took a gap year because I was forced to take a gap year, because the first time that I applied, I got rejected from 19 schools. Ended up taking the gap year to study for the DET. I improved all of my experiences, my manual dexterity. I got more shadowing in, I got more community service in. So I basically improved myself as an applicant, and that was kind of the theme that I was going for, is that 1 year I was able to do so much when I'm applying the second cycle, because that's what they're trying to look for in the second timers or the third timers. What did you do differently? How did you approach this cycle? Are you basically just doing the same thing? Program materials, I'm going to be discussing it in a couple slides. So for the program materials, many schools will ask you to match classes to the requirements to make sure that you did all their prereqs. So you need your transcripts to do that. And if you are not sure if a class fits that dental school's requirement, you can use the next document that we're going to talk about, which is the required and recommended courses. You can email and call that school directly. Again, try to be in their system, on their radar. It's better to ask than to be sorry, because every mistake will cost you a lot of money and will delay your application. Probably heard this before, the rolling admission, and it's not a myth. It's very damn real, because every step, every road bump that you come across will delay your chances of getting in.
Member of ASDA is not only like the things from like ATSU, there's other resources at the national level. You can have leadership positions. ASDA has like a magazine that's called the Contour magazine, but I love that. I used to read it all the time, and it has dental related topics, like it can help you in interviews to answer questions. But most importantly, you can actually write an article for this. I know somebody from ATSU, he was a pre-dental student, so when he went to interviews, he was able to talk about that he was published at national level in a dental school magazine. Still, he already graduated, and so these are some of the opportunities that you can use. And don't feel like you have to stick to one school. So I got really involved, let's say for example with ATSU, but I have Midwestern too, so I will go to the pre-dental day as well. And I know UCLA has a lot of resources. They have pre-dental days too. They have shadow days. Also, some schools have kind of like dental courses that teach you a little bit more longer, like how to use your hand skills, like drilling, taking impressions. So for me, it was like every year I would go to pre-dental day and GCAS. And so it was a really good experience, because I got to experience kind of the same processes in the different years. And so the first time it was more like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. And so pre-dental day was kind of like introduction. After that, GCAS was really encouraging, because you get to get different experiences. So the first time I did it, I was able to like be a translator. I was like one-on-one with a student, helping them and translating, and they even allow me to assist. And I got to like talk with a couple of faculty that later on, like when I did pre-dental day, they interviewed me, and later on I knew that they were like really big in the school. So I was like, oh my God, you get to see like the big people. and also including in Lindenberg. And then the second year, when you go, it's second time I did it, I was able to drill and do like a composite filling. So it was very exciting because it was another activity. And then on GCAS, that time I was able to do more things. I was able to I knew where stuff is. So I was able to bring the kids, and whoever was new to the program, I would get them excited about it. I would bring more people. Even though I already did once, I wouldn't recommend you to just oh, you already did it once, you're good to go. It's more like you get the experience and you grow with it. One more year, we're getting closer to application cycle, that kind of deal. So I recommend you to try to go to as many as possible. When I was doing the secondary application, it was no-brainer for me to answer why I will go to there, because on top of that, I volunteer in a community health center that some of the students in ASDOH will go to rotate. And so I had so many different experiences, so I knew to some extent how the school would work, and it really helped me. Now, when I went to the interviews, some of the people that interviewed me, I actually knew them, because not only Predental Day, but also from the community health center and some of the volunteer activities. I will also go to Oral Cancer Walk, which is one of the big events that AT still does as well. So I knew those people that kept calling, and so they were oh yeah, I saw that you did this. And it was more like a conversation, not so much like a interrogatory, because they already knew who I was to some extent. So it really helps you. And you can even say they were why do you want to come here? I know everybody from this school. I would love to come and learn from the professors that I knew. Don't feel like you can only do one of them. If you do multiple, it will show that you're very committed. And that's one way to stand out and get to know schools, get to know students. And once they tell you why this school, well, I did basically into principles. I was literally every day at the school, get to the point that I've been here. I see myself here. I would like to come here.
So going off of what Fernanda said about Contour, so this is our own personalized magazine. It's called the Lingual Groove. This is made by American Student Dental Association at ASDOH. And this edition was the fall of 2019 issue. And I ended up writing an article in there with my brother, who's a pre-dental. I have a picture of that article, basically about our experience, oral health disparities that we witnessed when we went to Egypt last year for summer break, and how that affected how we look at oral health and what we want to do when we go back to our home country and give back to our own community. These magazines always encourage pre-dental students to reach out to them and be guest writers. So take advantage of that. So just literally email them and tell them, I have this great story to share. Can I be a guest writer on your next issue? And for me, if I was running this magazine, I'll be more than welcome to have people come on board. And that's something that is great to mention on your primary, secondary, and on your actual interview as well.
The thing that I have to add is if you don't have specific topics, you can just go ahead and say, hey, I want to write an article, whichever topic you want me to say, and they will help you with the research and everything. So don't feel like you have to come up with your own topic as well.
I wanted to add one more thing. Personally, what I did was, since I'm from California, I did this thing where I wanted to visit every single school in California before I applied to it, just because, I could drive to each one and it was accessible. So I did that, where I did at least one pre-dental day or preview day or a community service event at every single school in California. So when the secondaries came around, I would list specifically the things that I did at the school, since I got to visit them. So I feel that was always an advantage, because it shows that I went the extra mile and did the preview day or did the pre-dental day. So I feel if you have that, or if you have a school next to you that you're very interested in, this would be a very good opportunity to attend any of these things, because again, you can write about it in your secondaries and stand out basically.
The thing is, I actually was I was split in between schools. And so for me, I was I want to stay in ASDOH. It literally is very close to home. I know how the program works. I love how the community health center rotations are. And one of the rotations, I used to volunteer all the time. I volunteered there an entire year during my gap year. So I knew everybody. But the thing is, for me, a big thing was the financial constraints. And so some of the schools that I applied, including UCLA and another school that was considering was Colorado, they offer scholarships. And so I was okay, I started to look at the numbers, I started to look at the experiences, and even though I love it this deal, I was okay, compared to how much less step I'm gonna have if I go to UCLA, that was the difference. When I went to the interview, I met one of the faculty. He was very nice, he answered all my questions, and he kind of draw me in a little bit. And I was a split, because he was kind of the personality of Dr. Dickenberg, but he was really to the personal level. And so that's the reason I was like, oh my God, I'm between these two. And so at the end, it was more like I talked to him on the phone. We discussed a little bit. Of course, he wanted me to go to UCLA and he convinced me. So I decided to go to UCLA.
Required and recommended courses. So this was not present when Fernanda, myself, and Sylvia applied 3 years ago. It's been a while. ADEA is trying to help you as pre-dents. So they ended up creating this spreadsheet, and it has all the schools. It has every single class, and it will tell you if it's required or recommended to take that class, and it will have additional information. So use this as a guide for starters, but if you have any specific detailed questions, again, contact that specific program. Question that I get all the time on my Dental Life blog is science versus non-science. So again, ADEA-ADSAS ended up making their own course list by subjects, and you can literally just Google ADEA-ADSAS course subject by Lazion, and Lazion is again the portal that makes ADSAS and other professional programs portals, and it will tell you like the subject GPA category, and it lists everything. Another question that I get on my Dental Life blog is C's get you degrees. That's the bottom line. But the burning question is C minuses. This question will get you thinking because it's the most unanswered question, because each school differs in how they approach C minuses. So some schools will accept C minuses if it's, let's say, in math or arts or whatever. But if you get a C minus in foundational biology series, then they will want you to retake that specific class. So again, reach out to every school specifically and ask them if that is your question. So for me, when I was applying in the 2017-2018 dental admission cycle, I ended up using the ADEA official guide to dental schools. I had a map because the map basically showed the private, the public schools, and I wanted to know where California is and where all the other states is and how far of a flight or a drive I had to go to apply. So I wanted basically to make sure that whatever school I pick and actually pay for the primaries, there is a chance that I'm going to actually attend that program, because I didn't want to go like all the way to New York and end up applying and they were like, I get accepted, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to go there. It just doesn't make sense from a financial perspective. So I ended up creating this. Just reach me either on my YouTube channel or on my Dental Life Instagram blog. I'll be more than happy to email you a copy of this. So for the program materials, so the reason why I have a question mark, because it varies between every student. Let's say I want to apply to 5 schools, so that will be how many program materials you'll have in the progress bar. So this might have an essay or checkbox type questions. This is not the secondary applications. Sometimes it is by elimination if that school does not send out a secondary application. This section is program specific. So add what classes each school requires using the official transcripts after they get verified. And I'm going to go over the process because each school has their own secondary application that is separate from the ADEA-ADSAS primary application. They require a separate fee. Some schools don't have a program materials at all. They refer you to their secondary portal. So transcripts must be verified for you to add the prerequisites for that program. So please pay attention to the details for every program. I was very cautious when I answered one of the common questions that Fernanda talked about, that is basically the same for almost every school. I had a foundational body paragraph. That body paragraph talked about my personal experiences in dentistry and my community service and all that. And I basically switched the school's name and the mission statement, and I recycled them. But be warned, be extra careful not to talk about ASDOH and the UCLA secondary or primary application, or even recycle emails and have hello admissions committee of ASDOH and send that to the admissions committee of UCLA. They will be more than happy to give you an automatic rejection. So consider yourself warned. It's kind of risky, but again, if I'm applying to 20 schools, I don't want to be repeating myself over and over again, because really nothing changed. Still, these are my personal experiences that I went through, and it's not going to change between every school. What is going to change is how that applies to that school's mission and how I'm going to do an alignment between my experiences and their mission and what I have to contribute to their mission. So this is the program materials for ATSU-ASDOH. So here under my application, you're going to get the progress bar, like I said. So here I have 9 schools. So this is one of them. When you click home, you're gonna get all of this information, but I'm gonna direct your attention to a specific note that is provided by the admissions office. And this note basically says admissions staff is here to guide you through the process of applying to ASDOH. For more information, please contact an admissions counselor. So this basically tells you that the admission committee is inviting you to contact them. Under my application, if you go under prerequisites, you're gonna be prompted with this screen. This screen basically says this program requires you to identify courses you have taken that fulfill the prerequisites listed below. So at this point, I didn't enter my transcripts yet because they haven't been approved, so they're not verified. So now I have access to my verified transcripts. So now this prompt tells you you must complete your transcript entry in the academic history section before you can identify prerequisites. So all prerequisites coursework must be taken from a US regionally accredited institution. So highly recommended that science prerequisite courses be taken within 5 years of applying. So this is a very important note. And no longer allowing prerequisite credits from AP or CLEP courses. So for me, I'm gonna show you the example of human physiology. So now, after I got my official transcripts, I send it to the ASDOH portal. Now they verify it. So the prerequisite for ASDOH for the human physiology, it tells you 3 semester hours, 4 quarter hours, acceptable alternatives. Animal physiology, mammalian physiology, vertebrate physiology, medical physiology, or human anatomy and physiology, part 1 and part 2. It doesn't get more specific than that, and it will tell you minimum credits is 3, minimum grades is 2. So for me, I took it at Victor Valley Community College, and my transcript shows that I took it fall of 2014, and I ended up getting an A in it, and the credits was 5 credits. So that basically covers the requirement. But for me, I wanted to take it at a university level for starting dental school. So I ended up taking it again at UCR, University of Riverside. Took that in the spring of 2017, and I ended up getting a B-, and the credits for that was 4 credits. Again, you don't need to go far and beyond and take it twice. I got an A in it the first time. I wanted to kind of get an exposure at a university level to kind of gauge how hard dental school is going to be compared to community college courses. So now it shows you human physiology was completed and ended up getting an A. So now it's verified, and I do that to every prerequisite that ASDOH wants. I just wanted to show you human physiology because it's one of the most asked questions that I get all the time. So the secondary supplemental application. So again, I'm using ATSU-ASDOH because all of us actually went through this process before and are very familiar with it. This is what the secondary portal looks like for AT-STIL. So under application, they give you a progress bar and a check mark for every section that you complete. And every slide that we're gonna go over is gonna have words. Feel free to take a closer look at it. The recommendations is basically the letters of recommendations or letters of evaluations. And there's a video that we did. I'm gonna have a link to it up here. Make sure you check it out. 3 letters of evaluations, and you still have to click the I voluntarily waive my right to see this letter, because again, out of respect for that letter of recommendation writer, you're not supposed to see that letter of recommendation. So you waive your right for every one of them. The first evaluation is required. It can be from a science professor, academic advisor, or pre-dental committee, and that is required. The second evaluation is from a dentist, and that is also required. And the third one, supervisor, manager, or director of a volunteer-based community service organization where you have a significant participation. So for this one, it's optional. List non-applicable in each field in order to submit if you do not want to include this optional letter of recommendation. So for me, I ended up volunteering at CDC Community Dental Clinic in San Francisco, where I was invited by my mentor, Dr. Jeff Eden, who inspired me to make these videos. And once I went to San Francisco and I did the volunteering, that wasn't my plan to include him as a letter of recommendation for my secondary for AT-STIL. I actually got my secondary for this school after the fact. I was kind of like looking around and trying to find someone to write it for me, and I literally booked a ticket specifically to go to San Francisco to volunteer at UCSF's CDC event just to increase my community service hours during my gap year. So I'm like, let me reach out to him, and I reached out to him, and he was more than happy to write me a letter of recommendation. So it was worth a try. So don't be shy, don't be scared. Try it. If it doesn't work, what's the worst thing that can happen? They'll tell you no. So these letter of recommendations, I ended up getting new professors to write me these letter of recommendations. So that way, now ATSTEL has my 4 letter of recommendations from the original portal, and now they have 3 more. Now they have 7 people that are saying great things about Sameh Solomon, who is a pre-dental that is trying to get into this program. And that is the goal of any letter of recommendation writer, is to basically praise you.
For the letter recommendation of the volunteer place, it doesn't necessarily have to be dental related. Actually, when I was applying for this, for ATSTEL, I will talk with Astra, which is somebody that will be in contact during the application for ATSTEL. And she told me that she would recommend it for me to put somebody that wasn't dental related. At the time, I was volunteering at my church in a very big organization called the St. Vincent de Paul. And so they have actually some dental clinics, but I used to bring food to whoever couldn't go to the markets, anybody that couldn't afford it. And so I did that activity and I got the letter from there. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a dental related. It actually shows something else, that you have other interests and other skills besides the dental field, which is actually a good thing. So some schools, they require special letters. So Columbia requires you 3 science professors instead of 2. Loma Linda requires you a peace letter. So you don't necessarily need to submit those through the primary. You can actually contact them directly. In the case of Loma Linda, it is within the secondary where they ask you to submit the priest letter. So always talk to the specific schools. That way you can know if the specific special letter can be sent to them specifically, or it has to be directly through the primary. Communication is the key.
So now we're going to talk about the essay. So it basically asks you, have you previously applied to Arizona School of Dentistry and Oral Health before? So for me, I put no, because the first time that I applied to 19 schools, and I didn't know about ATSTEL at all, whether it's the ASDOH campus or the MOSDOH campus. And I was honest in the interview, because they asked me the same exact question. It shows on your ATSAS application that you applied to dental school before, but it doesn't show on a record that you applied to this campus before. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't know that this campus existed, but I'm glad that it does, because here I am. You guys are one of my first interviews. The second time around, when I applied this cycle, I actually took it seriously. And I investigated every school, and I did my research on every program, and you guys really stood out, and I see myself being a student here. And they were very impressed with my responses. So be honest with your answers, and during the secondary preparation, make sure that you are at the same time preparing for your interview as well. The secondary application that I'm sharing with you, some of these prompts are available online on Student Doctor Network, and this is probably the only benefit that you will get from there. So this is basically a perk for whoever is watching these pay it forward videos. Thank you guys for tuning in, and this is helpful. Please subscribe and like this video. So some of the questions that they tell you, please list any changes or updates to your ATSAS application. If your ATSAS application is complete and accurate, please move on to the next section. So here it asks you the first question: describe a project or idea that was implemented or carried out successfully, primarily because of your efforts.
So for that one, I would try to think about what exactly I did. So in my case, I was the first one within my club that implemented that. Blood drives, we entered into a competition that is called the Cesar Chavez Blood Drive Challenge, in which we were competing against older schools. That was the first time it was ever done. So I was the one that organized it, I was the one that got involved with it. And so I kind of explained that one, but it doesn't have to be that big of a deal. It can be small things. It can even also be at work, not necessarily clubs.
So the second question is, what do you expect to be a challenge unique to dental school that would not be a factor for another healthcare professional programs?
For this one, I would talk more about like manual dexterity, because that's what we mostly focus on. So I would talk a lot about anything that I've done to help me with this challenge, because it is going to be a challenge once we start dental school. So any classes that I took with hands-on work or like painting or anything artsy, to explain how, yes, this is a challenge, but how I can turn it into something positive because I've been working on it.
So the next question is, describe a recent time off from school. How did you spend your time off? So for me, I took a gap year. So like I mentioned before, I ended up improving my manual dexterity, increasing my DT score by studying during that gap year, increasing my community service hours, increasing my shadowing hours, and increasing my work hours. So I wanted to show them that during that one gap year, I was able to do so much in my time off. And the next one is, how do you build a rapport with people? So for this, it's being personable with people, being honest with them, and staying in contact, and just be blunt and be straightforward. Can you please help me with this and this and that? And also, one of the biggest things I included in one of the previous videos is saying thank you in advance in anything that you need, because that shows appreciation. And if you end up sending me an email and you say that, I am willing to go the extra mile just for saying that. And for me, any email that I send out, doesn't matter to a faculty, a classmate, I always say thank you in advance. It's a good gesture, and it helps build a rapport with other people. And what have you learned from your mistakes? I have plenty of them, so I learned a lot. For this question specifically, if they ask you that during the secondaries or the actual interview, make sure that you put yourself in the best light possible. So say, this is a mistake that I made. This is what I learned from it. This is how I grew from it. So it's all sequential. That's what they want to see. They want to see growth. So everybody makes mistakes. So for all these questions, it shows you a progress bar, and it will give you a current character count out of 500. So you only have 500 characters, including spaces, where you can answer every one of these 5 questions. So for the DT scores, here it tells you we are asking that you indicate below the status of your DT scores. So for me, I have taken the DT and the AADSAS application have my score, okay? Or you can say it's in progress, or I have not taken it yet. Under disciplinary, this is basically asking you if you have any violations, be transparent, be honest, because the school is going to find out regardless, and they do a background check and all that. So just be straightforward, so that way you're not wasting your time or the school's time. For the disclosure, so this is basically talking about the non-discriminatory policy, meaning the school is not discriminating. The application fee for ASDOH was $70 that I paid. For the submission, here it shows you check marks next to everything that was completed, and basically you are 100% complete with your application, and you have to sign an agreement. Everything that you provided complements the ATSAS portal, and there is no falsification of information in this application. Tab right next to application, you're going to find the status. So this basically tells you the status of your application. So this is a checklist for the tasks of your application. Please allow a minimum of 2 weeks for processing after you submit your secondary before checking your statuses. So here it will tell you application submitted. That's check, 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 check. After that, you should hopefully be moving over to the interview section. I was interviewed on the same day as Sylvia, February 6, 2018. And it's a late interview. It's a post-December interview, but we still got in. So again, this goes to show you that don't freak out if you're a little bit behind. It's not the end of the world. Everybody moves at different paces. And then one thing that I want to bring your attention to, that's going to be covered in our interview video, I'm going to have a link to it up here in the future, is this promptly asks you to upload a video. So this is something that we didn't know existed in the secondary application. It was kind of in the fine print, and we just kind of skimmed over it. It asks you, ASDOH requires you to submit a short video statement. Again, requires you. This is required as part of your interview process. Your video should be no more than 1 minute in length. In your video, consider answering one of the 3 following questions. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why? Second question is, what is your favorite quote? Discuss the quote and what it means to you. What do you like to do for fun outside of school and or work? And it will tell you like the submission process. But me, Fernanda, and Sylvia did not do this video because we didn't know about it. And I learned about it from one of my pre-dental mentees that I'm mentoring. They ended up getting an interview at ASDOH, and they still didn't get accepted. And they were just desperate, and they were just clicking every single tab to see if there's any progress in their application. And they ended up sending me a screenshot of this. So I ended up going back to my portal, and I'm like, holy cow, like I didn't know about this at all. And Fernanda and Sylvia didn't know about it. So luckily we got in, but this tells you that you have to be very diligent with everything that you do for this application cycle. I guess we were great applicants in person and on paper that they kind of like let that slide. And it specifically says here, this is a requirement. Again, if you're watching this Pay It Forward series, you heard it here first, because honestly, we didn't know about it. So you're welcome. So submission of the application. So here it will tell you, so right now we literally completed the program materials, transcript, verification and everything. So under AT-Still, it will have a check mark right next to the progress bar. So that means it's completed. And then over time, when you add more and more schools, the price is gonna go up and up. So one thing that I wanna point out is right here, it tells you sort by, and you can sort by the deadline for every school. So that way you prioritize the school that has their application due like the soonest first, and then kind of put out the schools that their application is due in a couple months. And this also goes for the secondaries, because some schools will send the secondaries around the same time. You have to prioritize which school you want, like do it according to your prioritization, because you want to make sure that that program that you want to get into the most or the baddest has all the requirements met, and that is the secondary application is one of the essential requirements for that. You must add at least one program to be able to submit your application, and then you can add more after. So again, using the deadline drop-down menu, you're able to organize it by which one has the most recent due date. So you can check status. Under check status, it will show you the transcripts, the evaluations, the letter of recommendations, and the standardized test for the DET. And then here the application was pushed back to June 16th because of COVID. And this is also a good time to mention that the information that we provided right now is from our past cycle. So I have no idea what type of questions every school is going to be asking considering the COVID pandemic. But regardless of whatever questions they ask, I'm going to have a link to our COVID video up here where we talk about how you should approach any prompt that is thrown at you regarding the pandemic and what you can do in your free time since everybody's quarantined right now. So again, make sure that you download your application. When you download the application as a PDF, it should look something like this with all your information. And I think it runs about 40 pages depending on how much information you have in there. So as always, best of luck, and remember to pay it forward. So as always, this has been a pleasure doing these videos together with my team. We are doing our best to be very diligent about our research, looking into every program, but we can't have all 76 schools in an hour video. You have to kind of put in the effort and do your own detective work to look into every program specifically. But this is our commitment to you to pay it forward, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Like I had explained in previous videos, the reason I mostly wanted to pay it forward is because I had some help, but I didn't have as much. A lot of things I tried to pretty much scavenge around to find it. Back at the time, I didn't find as many YouTube videos as I could find. And so right now you can have a lot of resources for you to help you. So take advantage of it. I hope it was helpful, and you can follow me at FernSC with a Y.
I joined the Pay It Forward movement because when I was applying to dental school, I honestly had no guidance other than my mentors and the people that I worked with or had assisted. I didn't really have anyone that I could reach out to in specific schools, so it was very hard for me to get the information, so I had to do my own research. So having this YouTube page would have been really helpful, so I hope it's helping at least one person out there, but I know it's helping more. Hey, good luck on the application. You're gonna do great, and if you've gotten a secondary, just see it as this is a congratulations moment. You're just getting a step closer to hopefully getting an interview. And if you need any help, just follow me on Instagram at Sylvia. So good luck everyone, and just pay it forward.
So pay it forward. So subscribe to this video and give it a thumbs up. As always, I'm available if you guys need any help. If you guys have any questions, put them below in the comment section, and I'll do my best to reply back to you as fast as possible. I'm literally all over social media. Make sure that you contact me, follow me on my Dental Life with a Y on Instagram, and I wish you the best. Bye, everyone. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.
There's so much strength in you and me, powerful.